Everyone wants something. Everyone says they want success, freedom, peace, love, power. But most people lie, not to others. No, that would be too easy. They lie to themselves. They whisper to themselves in the quiet of their room, "I want to change my life," and then do absolutely nothing about it. That's not desire. That's fantasy. That's wishful thinking wrapped in the costume of ambition. A weak desire is a soft knock at the door. A real desire? It kicks the damn door down. There's a massive difference between saying I want it and I must have it or I'll die trying. You can feel it in the way someone moves. You can see it in their eyes. Weak desires wait for motivation. Real desires create momentum. And if your dream hasn't gotten you out of bed early, kept you up at night, forced you to sacrifice comfort, made you risk looking like a fool, then it's not a real desire. It's just noise. Because when something is burning inside you, you don't need reminders. You don't need permission. You don't need inspiration. You wake up with it. You go to sleep with it. It becomes your obsession, your focus, your fuel. You're no longer looking for motivation videos or signs from the universe. The only sign you need is the ache in your soul that won't shut up. The problem is, most people confuse interest with obsession. They say, "I want to write a book," but they haven't written a single sentence. "I want to start a business," but they spend hours scrolling instead of building. "I want to change my life," but they keep living the same day over and over, hoping something will magically shift. That's not hunger. That's hesitation dressed as hope. And hesitation kills dreams faster than failure ever will. Because at least failure means you tried. But a weak desire, it keeps you in limbo. It convinces you that waiting is a strategy, that maybe next year, next week, next opportunity. But the truth is, weak desires have no legs. They don't walk. They don't run. They don't climb. They sit. They settle. They die slowly in silence while you convince yourself that life just didn't work out. No, it's not life. It's not the world. It's not the economy or your parents or the algorithm. It's you. You didn't want it enough. Because if you did, nothing would have stopped you. You would have learned what you had to learn. You would have fallen, failed, stood back up, screamed, cried, crawled through fire if you had to. That's the level of hunger required to build something real, something great, something permanent. Weak desires are easy to entertain because they don't demand anything from you. They let you stay soft, stay passive, stay dreaming. Real desire demands sacrifice. It demands pain. It demands that you bleed a little for it. And most people don't want that part. They want the result but not the process, the success but not the suffering, the crown but not the climb. That's why they stay stuck. Because their desire is just strong enough to want it, but not strong enough to fight for it. So I'm asking you, not what you wish for, not what you daydream about when you're scrolling through your feed. I'm asking, what are you obsessed with? What keeps you up at night, twisting in your sheets because you haven't reached it yet? What burns in your stomach every time you see someone else living the life you say you want? If you don't have something that makes you restless, something that makes you insane because you're not there yet, then maybe you don't want it enough, because desire that's weak is forgettable. But a real one, it rewires your brain. It makes you insane in the best way. It makes you stop playing small. It forces you to act, even when you're scared, even when you're tired, even when no one believes in you. Weak desires can't survive resistance, the first sign of failure, and they fold. But strong desires, they grow stronger in the storm. They feed on adversity. They use every no as fuel. Every door slammed shut becomes a reason to build your own. That's how you know it's real. When the world says no and your response is, "Watch me," that's not arrogance, that's conviction. That's the kind of fire that changes everything. So stop telling yourself you want it unless you're willing to bleed for it. Stop calling it your dream unless you're willing to wake up for it. Stop saying it matters to you unless you're willing to make it your priority. Because weak desires are not real desires. They're illusions, excuses, distractions, and they are the reason so many people live lives that are only half-lived. Don't be one of them. A true desire doesn't ask for your attention. It hijacks it. It takes over your thoughts, your time, your focus. You can't escape it. You don't chase it. It chases you. It breathes down your neck. It keeps whispering, "Well, no, we're not there yet." And the fire doesn't go out. In fact, the more you try to ignore it, the louder it screams. That's how you know it's real. It's not a mood. It's not a phase. It's not a passing fascination. It's a war inside your chest that refuses to settle. A true desire reshapes your life, whether you like it or not. You start cutting people off. You stop wasting time. You become selective with your energy. You don't feel like partying anymore. You don't care what everyone else is doing. You're too focused, too driven, too deep in the process to be distracted by the noise. You don't have time for shallow conversations when your future is calling your name. This is what real hunger looks like. Discipline without applause, effort without attention, consistency without validation. And it's quiet. Real desire isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. Because it's working, it's grinding, it's evolving behind the scenes. You won't see it in Instagram posts or empty promises. You'll see it in who you're becoming when no one's watching. That transformation, the invisible one, that's what separates real desire from a weak one. Weak desires want comfort. Real desires want change. And change isn't romantic. It's ugly. It's painful. It's boring most days. But that's the point. Anyone can want something when it's fun. Real ones keep going when it's not. That's the kind of energy that bends reality, that rewrites the script. You don't get what you kinda want. You get what you're obsessed with, what you sacrifice for, what you refuse to give up on, what you get up and fight for even after life punches you in the face. That's when the shift happens. When you stop asking, "Is it worth it?" and start saying, "I'll make it worth it." Because now it's not about motivation, it's about identity. It's who you are now. You don't just want it anymore. You've become the type of person who does what it takes, who doesn't need to be told, who doesn't need a cheerleader. You show up because that's what your future demands. That's what your soul signed up for. There's no going back to average once you've tasted obsession. Once you've seen even a glimpse of the person you could be, it becomes impossible to settle for anything less. And people will say, "You've changed." Yes, that's the point. You weren't supposed to stay the same. You weren't built to be ordinary. You weren't meant to live in hesitation. You were made to evolve, to shed old skins, to rise through your own fire. So if your life still looks the same year after year, it's not because the world is against you. It's because your desire is still too weak. You haven't committed all the way. You're still playing with it, still testing the waters, still waiting for certainty. But the truth is, nothing extraordinary happens in hesitation. The magic lives in the leap, in the uncomfortable, in the unknown. And only a real desire can carry you through that kind of chaos. A real desire teaches you patience. It teaches you suffering. It teaches you how to show up tired, how to keep going heartbroken, how to walk alone. It doesn't just make you successful. It makes you dangerous. Because now you know what it means to want something so badly, you're willing to lose everything else for it. That kind of hunger is rare. That kind of focus is lethal. And once you find it, once you lock into it, life bends around your will. Not because you're lucky, but because you refuse to quit. Most people never taste that power. They live on the edges of their own potential, afraid to go all in, afraid to burn the ships. But you're here, reading this, feeling something stir in your gut. And that feeling, that's your sign, that's your fire. Don't run from it. Don't bury it under distractions. Let it grow. Let it consume the old version of you. Let it break you, because when it's real, it will. And after it's broken you, it will rebuild you. Stronger, sharper, clearer, hungrier. That's what true desire does. It destroys everything that was keeping you small, and in the ruins, you find your truth, your focus, your power. So the question is not, do you want it? The real question is, will you let it break you so it can build you? If you look closely, you'll notice something about people who move differently. They don't talk much about what they're doing. They just move, while others are busy explaining their plans, making vision boards, updating stories with grind mode hashtags. The ones who are truly becoming something are silent, focused, obsessive. You can feel their energy when they walk into a room. It's not loud, but it's powerful. You can tell they're not here to impress. They're here to build. These people don't chase attention. They chase mastery. And they're not motivated by applause or validation. They're driven by something deeper, a fire, a necessity, something that comes from a place most people never visit. The place where you've had enough mediocrity, enough excuses, enough pretending you're okay with living at 40% of who you could be. Real desire comes from that moment, the breaking point, the quiet collapse behind closed doors where you finally say, no more. That's where monsters are born. That's where greatness starts, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows when no one's watching and you still choose to rise. Again and again and again. You become something dangerous when you stop needing permission to grow, when you stop negotiating with your fears, when you decide that being average is no longer acceptable, not even for a second, because real desire doesn't need ideal conditions. It doesn't wait for motivation to knock. It shows up anyway. It shows up on the days when nothing feels right, when your confidence is gone, when you're exhausted, doubting, alone, and it still says, let's go. You know what makes someone unstoppable. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not even intelligence. It's hunger. Pure, undeniable hunger, the kind of hunger that doesn't flinch when it's rejected, that doesn't collapse after a bad day, that doesn't cry when no one claps. Hunger builds in silence. It thrives in solitude, and it doesn't need the world to understand. It just needs you to not give up. Every person who's ever done something great, every legend, every outlier, every name you remember, had one thing in common. A desire that burned so deeply it scared them. It shook their world. It cost them friendships. It made them seem crazy. It made them seem selfish. But they kept going. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Because their desire wasn't optional. It was oxygen. And the truth is, if your dream doesn't scare you a little, it's not big enough. If it doesn't make you question whether you're enough, whether you're strong enough, smart enough, fast enough, it's not a real dream. It's a hobby, a fantasy, a safe little idea you keep in your back pocket so you don't feel like a failure. But the people who become something, they burn the safety net. They make the leap. They put everything on the line, not because they're fearless, but because they refuse to live with the regret of not trying. Weak desires keep you in safety. Real desires demand risk. Real desires come with consequences. They come with isolation, with late nights and early mornings, with failure, lots of it, with misunderstanding, judgment, even mockery. But they also come with transformation, with power, with the kind of self-respect that can't be bought. And once you've felt that, once you've built something with your own two hands, through sweat, pain, and tears, nothing else compares. That's the price of becoming someone rare. That's the tax you pay to live a life of meaning. You lose the right to be normal. You give up the comfort of the crowd. And in exchange, you gain something unbreakable, yourself. Fully expressed, fully alive, fully dangerous. That's why most people quit. Because the price is high, and weak desire won't pay it. Weak desire folds the moment the challenge appears. But the strong, they endure, they adjust, they come back harder, because their desire is not just in their head, it's in their blood. So if you find yourself surrounded by people who don't understand you, who think you're doing too much, who tell you to slow down or just be realistic, good. That means you're on the right path. That means your desire is real enough to threaten the comfort of others. And that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Real desire makes you a different breed. It separates you, not because you're better, but because you're willing. Willing to go through what others won't. Willing to stay in the fire until it reshapes you. Willing to keep moving when the path disappears. And in the end, that's the only difference that matters. The willingness to keep going when everyone else stops. That's what builds legacies. That's what rewrites names into history. Not the desire to have, but the desire to become. Real desire doesn't stay in your mind. It moves through your body. It commands your habits. It infiltrates your routine. It dictates how you wake up, how you eat, how you speak, how you train, how you rest, and who you surround yourself with. You don't just want anymore. You start acting like the person who already has it. That's the shift. That's the moment you go from dreaming to becoming. Because when the desire is real, you don't negotiate with discipline. You make the decision once and you follow through every single day. No back and forth. No, should I skip today? No, I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't exist for someone who's obsessed. Every day is the day. Every moment is sacred. That's what separates the ordinary from the exceptional. Most people wait to feel ready, but those with real desire, they start before they feel ready. They build while they're scared. They move even when the path is unclear. They act as if success is inevitable, not because they're arrogant, but because they refuse to accept any other outcome. And so the world begins to bend. It's not magic, it's alignment. Your thoughts, words, and actions begin to agree. There's no inner conflict anymore. You're not divided between who you are and who you want to be. You've become one. And from that alignment comes power, laser focus, emotional clarity, ruthless energy. You don't waste time explaining yourself. You don't argue with people who can't see the vision. You simply outwork them, outlast them, outgrow them, because your standards have changed. Weak desires make excuses. Strong desires build systems. You start creating routines that protect your energy. You say no without guilt. You wake up earlier. You move with intention. You don't need 10 different productivity hacks. You just need one reason strong enough to get you out of bed when the rest of the world is sleeping. One reason to keep going when life punches you in the mouth. And that reason comes from your desire. Not a wish, not a goal written on paper, but a fire in your chest that refuses to let you stay small. So how do you build from that? You turn your life into a machine that honors that fire. You track your progress. You hold yourself accountable. You measure what matters. You replace distractions with discipline. You replace comfort with clarity. You don't just work hard, you work precisely, because effort alone isn't enough. Anyone can be busy, but not everyone is effective. You don't rise by doing more. You rise by doing what matters relentlessly and eliminating what doesn't. That's the architecture of transformation. Focus, clarity, repetition, every single day, even when it's boring, especially when it's boring. That's how muscles are built. That's how reputations are forged. That's how legends are made, through the repetition of meaningful work in silence, with no applause, just purpose. And here's the hard truth. The world does not care how badly you want something. It only responds to how consistently you act on it. That's why so many dreams die unfulfilled, not because they weren't worthy, but because the desire behind them was too weak to fuel daily action. But you? You're different. Or at least you can be, if you're willing to wake up tomorrow and do the work. Without fanfare, without motivation, without guarantees, just you, your discipline, and your desire. And when that happens, when your life becomes the physical expression of your inner fire, you become unstoppable. You don't chase goals anymore. You live them, you breathe them, you embody them. Every step you take becomes a statement. Every habit becomes a weapon. Every choice becomes a building block. And before you know it, you're not just moving towards something, you're moving as something. You've become the mission. You've become the storm. And the people who used to doubt you, They start asking how you did it, but you won't have time to explain because you'll be too busy building, too deep in the process, too far gone in the rhythm of your becoming. That's what happens when desire is real. It doesn't stop at vision. It demands execution, and execution day after day is what changes everything. You reach a point where you no longer need to announce your moves. You stop proving your worth. You stop convincing people to believe in you. Why? Because your life starts speaking louder than your words. Your habits speak. Your progress speaks. Your energy enters the room before you do, and it's undeniable. People can feel when someone is operating from true desire. It's not performative, it's not forced, it's not desperate, it's focused, it's calm, it's intimidating, not because you're trying to be, but because most people have never seen what it looks like when someone is fully aligned with their mission, when someone is no longer interested in being liked, but in being excellent. That's the shift. That's the final form. You stop chasing approval and start chasing evolution. You no longer ask, do they get it? Instead, you ask, did I grow today? You realize that weak desires always need external support to survive. They need motivation videos, compliments, encouragement, but real desire. It's self-fueling. It burns even in the dark. It doesn't care if anyone is clapping. It doesn't care if you're tired. It just keeps going because it's not about hype. It's about becoming. You want to know why real desire is terrifying to the world? Because it exposes everyone else's excuses. When you show up every day, despite your pain, despite your doubts, despite your fears, you become a mirror. You reflect what others could be if they stopped playing small. And not everyone wants to see that. Some will attack you for it. Others will distance themselves. But a few, a rare few, they'll be inspired. Not by your words, but by your consistency, your silence, your results. That's how you lead, not by shouting from the rooftops, but by walking with purpose, by becoming so committed to your vision that people can't help but feel it. That's the kind of presence real desire gives you, the kind that turns heads without trying, the kind that builds a legacy without permission, the kind that says, I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to fulfill something inside me. And when you reach that level, you realize something. Success is not a destination. It's a consequence of alignment, a consequence of daily action rooted in real hunger. It was never about the money, never about the fame, never about the likes or the applause. It was always about this, becoming who you were meant to be before the world told you to settle. And that version of you, that version doesn't break under pressure. It doesn't flinch in the face of failure. It doesn't stop just because things get hard. That version of you is forged in fire. It walks through storms. It turns pain into power. It doesn't ask for easier, just stronger legs to carry the weight. Because you're not just chasing a goal anymore. You've become the embodiment of a vow, a silent promise to yourself that you will not die with your potential still inside you. That you will not leave this world the same, that you will turn your scars into scripture, your wounds into wisdom, your hunger into something sacred. This is what real desire looks like. It's not beautiful, it's not poetic, it's raw, it's relentless, it's lonely, and it's absolutely worth it. Because in the end, there is nothing more powerful than a human being on fire, with no need to explain, no need to prove, just the quiet, unwavering force of someone who decided that mediocrity would never again be an option. So let the world sleep on you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call you obsessed, because one day when they finally open their eyes, they'll realize you didn't just want it, you became it, and that made all the difference.